Can you find peace, contentment, and nirvana in New Jersey? Coming up on Architecture Codex.
Architecture Codex. If you want to see more, subscribe.
Most of my life, I have studied Western architecture, history, culture, and religion. But I am very open to learning more about the Eastern world. It's just I haven't been there because I really don't have the resources. And as previously begged on this channel, if you're able to sponsor such a trip, talk to me. It would be greatly appreciated. But rather than wait and beg some more, I found an opportunity to learn more about the Eastern world at the Swaminarayan Akshardham in Robbinsville, New Jersey. And if you're from New Jersey, exit 8. The temple was built from 2015 to 2023. No architect is listed on the BAPS website, but official records show it to be Robert James Blakeman. Given the amount of carvings and statues, it is likely Blakeman designed the structure onto which the artisans applied their work. It is the second largest Hindu mandir in the world, and it is built in the very traditional Nagara style. By the way, since I am delving into a language and culture with which I am not familiar, the mispronunciations will be abundant, and I might be mansplaining things that you already understand. Apologies in advance. Nagara-style temples were popular in the north of India starting in the 7th century AD. Of the three subsets of that style, the Chandela school featured elaborate statuary inside and out, as we see in the New Jersey temple. The form externally has a number of sikhararas, cone domes or stupas. Inside the main sikhara is the garbhagriha, the innermost sanctuary, literally meaning the womb chamber, where the sacred image of the temple's primary deity is enshrined. In the New Jersey womb room is the image of BAPS Swaminarayan and his exemplary devotee, Gunatitanand Swami. The room is generally a place without natural light, but that tradition seems to have been modified here. There is a yin-yang contrast of the inner womb chambers located inside the towers, which often very directly represent the male penis, such as at the Brihadisvara or Khajuraho temples. Hindu culture is much more comfortable with human sexual nature being part of their holiness. Indeed, it is not uncommon for some of the statues of the temple to feature what the Western eye might consider erotic. The temple in New Jersey does not contain any such erotic statues. At least I didn't see any, even though I looked. But I'm not sure if that's because of the nature of this Hindu sect or simply a deference to Western sensibilities. But if you're looking for that kind of thing in New Jersey, you should skip the Akshardham and go directly to the Bada Bing Club. Look, I'm not dumping on New Jersey. I like New Jersey. I was even born in New Jersey. But since both my parents were New Yorkers, and since we moved back to New York when I was 2 months old, I consider myself a New Yorker, born in exile. Traditionally, the statues and carvings reflect Hindu beliefs of structure and order and repeat in symmetry and sequence. The symbols and statues are a vocabulary such that the arrangement around the temple are sentences evoking Hindu ideals. I don't read Hindi statue, so all I can do is admire it for the aesthetics. At Akshardham, the 10,000 statues represent the deities and holy swamis of BAPS, but it also has all 108 positions in traditional Bharatanatyam dance. There are 548 intricately carved columns called stamas, depicting sacred Hindu scripture. We were not permitted to photograph the interior ourselves, as it is a place of devotion and not just for gawking tourists, but we tried to capture the essence in sketches. Even without my ability to comprehend the spiritual significance, the building is an astounding architectural achievement. The intensity of the carvings, inside and out, the sheer magnitude, The delicate repetition, the serenity of all the human images, creates a calming, soothing transcendence. The patience and devotion of the carvers, albeit with power tools, and I suspect some computer guidance, to repeat the same pieces thousands and thousands of times is too much to comprehend. And perhaps because it is rendered in white marble for the most part, the total effect is still tranquil. I suspect that is why I find it more appealing than Rococo, which is the most equivalent Western architectural tradition. Rococo is gold-gilded and speaks more of misapplied wealth to me, while the Mandir is simply more sincere, more about sharing. There are niches within the temple where gold is amply applied, but since they are less common, they stand out within and do not overpower the space. Traditionally, Hindu and Buddhist temples are placed near a river, as crossing a river has spiritual significance in the history of this culture. For example, Siddhartha crosses a river and eventually becomes the Buddha. At the New Jersey site, lacking a river, they created a stepped pond which you must cross, or go around actually, through arched gates in order to arrive at the temple. Water being the essence of all life, this is part of the spiritual journey the temple creates for you as a metaphor for your own journey. The spiritual inspiration for BAPS, Nilkanvani, had his own 7-year journey across India as he spread his teachings and became BAPS Swaminarayan. The experience of the building is impactful from a distance as well as up close. There is an almost never-ending revelation of detail and form, and as an architect, I find that astoundingly complex. Somehow, all the carvings express the building in the correct module in detail as powerfully as the building and the campus as a whole. There is a theory that in the way that traditional Western Greco-Roman architecture is based on the golden section, A plus B over A equals A over B. Eastern architecture and art is based on a math best expressed by the Mandelbrot Set. Function of zn plus 1 equals zn squared plus c. This is a fractal equation that reveals an ever-growing, complex, and yet repeating two-dimensional pattern. Fractal math is far above my pay grade. Benoit Mandelbrot was a Polish-born French-American mathematician who lived mostly in the 20th century. No one is claiming that Mandelbrot created the set and the Hindu temples used it. Rather, the theory says that the Eastern creators, architects, milliners, sculptors, etc., understood this math intuitively or by hidden overt knowledge, and they employed it. Mandelbrot merely expressed it in Western math terms, the same way that Italian Renaissance mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci rediscovered the golden section in terms of whole number sequences. But it is hard not to see the pattern in Hindu temples and dress, and the fact that you can see it up close and from a distance makes the fractal mathematical metaphor more powerful. BAPS stands for Bokasawasi Sri Akshardham Swaminarayan, whose meaning appears to be the Bokasan, the place of origin, institution of the glorious godly Swaminarayan. It is a Hindu denomination oriented to devotion, self-purity, and social work. They follow the revelations of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, who they believe was God incarnate on earth, in the late 18th century. They were formally established around 1907 by Shastrilji Maharaj. They draw more heavily from the ancient Hindu scriptures, the Vedas. Their core belief addresses practical spirituality on 5 pillars: no alcohol, no addictions, no adultery, no meat, and no impurity of the body and mind. There are more than 1 million followers who begin their day with puja and meditation, lead upright, honest lives, and donate regular hours in servicing others. This is manifest in social services that range from treating addictions, recycling, planting trees, providing medical treatment, and more. There are 44 major Mandir temple sites around the world, including London, Auckland, Chino Hills, California, Chicago, Toronto, Nairobi, and of course India, with many thousands more smaller mandirs and centers. More are in constant production. They have an extensive online presence. Volunteerism is one of the major tenets of their spiritual guidance, and many volunteers participated in the construction of the mandir in New Jersey. This is astounding, as I am usually suspect of volunteer labor, particularly in churches, as I am not convinced that all the volunteers have the necessary construction skills. But somehow they made it work here, even though there were 2 reported deaths at the construction site, and there were many lawsuits here in Union-heavy New Jersey. But somehow these problems went away. The marble for the temple is quarried in Turkey, Bulgaria, and other European locations, shipped to Mojadad, Gujarat, India, where it is carved and assembled, and then shipped to the location for the mandir under construction. It appears the expansion of sites is planned, such that work is steady, but it remains unclear to me if the carvers in India are also volunteers. Again, the building is impressive, if only on the amount of coordination necessary to make this happen. While I was sketching the inside, I had a conversation with one of the volunteers working in the temple that day, and she was very excited to share with me the philosophies of BAPS. By the way, this was at my invitation. I don't want you to think that visiting the mandir is an opening to some intrusive indoctrination. The goal of BAPS, like traditional Hindu sects, is to achieve nirvana through personal purification and dharma, meaning both religious harmony and religious law. But it also appears to me that the BAPS sect has added service to others and devotion to God, a singular deity, albeit in multiple persons, to the tradition. And as a Christian, I can relate to this as we are called to a life of loving service by our God incarnate, Jesus Christ. If along the way we will please God, then the promise of heaven or nirvana awaits for us. The core beliefs then are quite close. At BAPS, these concepts of devotion, kindness, and purity seem universal to contented people who are thinking of others before they think of themselves, knowing that they are participating in God's grand plan to create moral good, and that we are loved even if we stumble on that path. And since the architecture exemplifies this contentment, it is no wonder it speaks peacefully to all the people who enter. It continues to astound us today, the lengths to which a sincerely faithful people will go in order to build for their God and their spiritual beliefs. And yet we've seen that throughout history, whether it's the temples of the Mediterranean world, the Gothic churches of Northern Europe, or the domed churches and mosques in Asia Minor. That spirit is indeed alive today, and we see it in modern churches and these mandirs being built through the sacrifices made by humans for the glory of their God. I'm Michael Molinelli, and this is Architecture Codex.